Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Bailey and I are doing our final discussion for Fateforge Chronicles of Kaan. This is one of... Is that mine? It is mine! I'm like, what the hell is that? I never hear my phone go off. So we've already done a preliminary discussion after Act 1.
Yep.
So now we have finished it, all 3 acts. And Bailey, what did you think of the overall campaign?
Overall, I think it flows really well. I like the battle map layouts, things like that. It's great. The thing that got old real fast was the traveling around with the map. That actually ended up, I know at the very beginning I was like, oh, it's a really cool idea. It got old real fast.
Yeah, they didn't really do a whole lot with it. So like these, they give you 3 maps, the big one of the land, which is honestly just cool to have. To like normally whenever I look at maps, it's kind of like, oh, where are we? But then they're always off to the side.
Yeah. It's cool. I like the idea of it. Like, you can see where you're going, but like it doesn't offer like, oh, like a better way of like traveling kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just up, down, left, right, which
right,
go in this direction.
You kind of stick to the same spot. It's generally easy to get where you're going.
Yeah.
And then the one time that we had any type of like, oh, okay, how do we figure this out?
Yeah.
It was so basic, but then it's like, oh man, I don't know where to go. Then basically they're just like, whatever, we'll just get you there.
We'll do it ourselves. But we found it right at the very end.
Yeah, it's like, well, we're on the right path, but it's like, it seems like there's only so many like mistakes you can make before someone just kind of tells you where to go.
See, the thing that would probably make it a little bit better is if, as we're going through and traveling around, there can actually be like, oh, we're at this spot, this is what's going on in the area.
Yeah.
Like, there actually can be like, oh, you see this store getting robbed. Do you want to stop and help? Or like,
like mini events. Not something where it's like, oh, set up this whole ordeal.
No.
But
just a few like, oh,
where we can be rewarded for like more money.
Or, more money, get an ally or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I agree. That was probably super lacking. Like, and by the time of Act 1, it's kind of, I agree. It was, oh, maybe that'll be more fleshed out. And it never really was. In fact, most of the time, it told you place your party marker there, and that you just left it.
Yeah, you just got it there, and that was it.
These 2 things, for the Eclipse District and the Gadigan, which, spoilers, by the way, like we're going to be talking about the whole campaign, are so fucking pointless.
Oh, very pointless.
Like, there is literally, like, I like it in terms of, like, what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Because whenever you're getting, like, a bunch of word salad and paragraphs of stuff, because me, when I'm reading out loud, I'm focused on making sure I'm reading everything correctly, making it as entertaining as I can, trying to do different voices, that I'm not really retaining what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's nice, at least for me, as the reader, to be like,
look at that picture.
Oh, okay, that's what I just read, so I now get to visualize it. But in terms of actual practicality, there was no reason to have these.
No.
Like, it almost felt like it was almost a legacy aspect of being like, oh, hey, now you get to remove stickers. I don't care, like, at all.
I think the point of removing stickers also in games like this, because, like, it's supposed to be a repeatable game.
Yeah.
So, like, you remove stickers after that first one, you never have to do it again.
Exactly. Yeah. So
it's pointless to have stickers if you're just going to remove them once and then never do it again.
Especially for the one thing that I never touched, where for the big map, it wanted you to remove stickers for places you've been. Yeah. And it's like, but why?
Yeah.
Like, there was no point to ever doing that, so I never touched it. I think overall, I had a great time. I
actually really liked it.
I think the game itself, like the actual gameplay, is really good. Like, the dice system, which was my biggest concern going into this,
worked out pretty well.
It's great. It's so good. Like, they give you enough ways to mitigate, enough ways, like, but not so much that you're always getting what you want. But it's like, oh, I got some misses. Do I want to spend my precious stamina to spend that? And there are so many different builds you can do, still within your class. Like, this isn't a game of like, oh, I'm playing this fencer, I'm going to make him the tank. Like, I'm going to make him the spellcaster. It's like, you can't do that, but you get to pick the class that you want to play, and there's a bunch of different builds within that same class.
Yeah.
which is perfectly fine. Like, if you have a particular play style, it's like, I usually play rogues. Oh, well, here's the rogue character.
Mm-hmm. And from there, you can break it down into most likely, well, so like with mine, like either focused on hitting hard and doing a lot of damage, or hitting a lot of things in one go.
Yeah.
Because I could have got rapid shot, but I like the versatility of changing some of my rolls to other things.
Yeah. Well, we learned pretty quickly on how important blocking was.
Blocking is a big thing.
Like, because my build was all about keeping, like, mobility. Like, I wanted to be able to deal and handle with any type of enemy reactions or board state that it's like, okay, like, because weirdly enough, you being the ranger was so restricted on movement. Like,
yeah,
like,
it was really weird that I couldn't move across the map to get away from people,
right.
or have something like, because you have the duck and roll, and you could have slid through a bunch of things.
Yeah, and or if I'm in arrow stance, I can dash out and not take damage from enemies. So I constantly was moving around the map. So it's like, okay, what can you deal with? I mean, I thought we had a great synergy.
Oh yeah, no, our stuff played really well together.
It's like, shit, okay, I can't get rid of that. Can you kill it so then I can run around and attack those enemies that are going to be a problem?
My only thing is I do wish, like, so like I got the bow later on that gave me more range for everything that I rolled, which is great.
Yeah.
But I wish there was more like skills that go through and deal with like adding range to it or something like that.
Right.
There really wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, what was the max range you could have ever gotten?
Just the two. Just the two. Just the 2 spaces.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, 2 spaces was the farthest one I've seen. So
none of your skills gave you like a +2 range?
Nope.
Yeah, okay.
It was just the +1.
Yeah. I mean, which again, with the dash and like the spending stamina to move, like still moving was never like, because with games that I've played in the past, where your dice dictate everything you can do, and it's kind of like, oh, I hope I can move. Didn't get a boot. I guess I can't move this turn. Yeah. I despise that. So at least in this game, you were almost like, okay, I didn't roll a boot, but I can dash. So they gave you such free reign in that opening preparation phase. That's like, here's what I rolled. Okay, what can I do with this? I can still dash out. And then on my turn, I can still spend stamina to move if I need to.
I did like that some of the dice have the boot and the focus, so you can kind of pick and choose how you want to move about that.
Right.
That was really helpful in a lot of situations.
I think this is a very, I don't want to say dumbed down, it's a very simplified campaign game that still has a ton of depth. Like, it feels like they didn't sacrifice anything to make it simple.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't... Because for the map tiles, for example, it's like as we kept going, the maps kept getting bigger and bigger, which made it more of a puzzle on which areas we wanted to tackle.
Yeah.
And it did a pretty good job of like, do you want to go all the way out of your way to get a chest, or do you want to try and get some money, or do you want to beeline it for the objective?
Yeah.
And you got to make those decisions without sitting here and be like, well, we can do it all. It's like, well, you really can't.
No. Because you think like, most of the time, like for me, I'm only moving 1 or 2 spaces every turn, if that.
Yeah. Which makes sense because it's like, okay, well, you can shoot an area away, and that's from here all the way to there, no matter how many enemies are in it. Or if you get 2 range, that's from here all the way to that far spot. So you don't need to move that much.
No.
Whereas me, it's like, well, I don't have any range, so I use my arrows to move and attack, and then melee attack. But that leaves me wide open for attack. As we saw in the finale, it was like I dashed, I'm like, I'm good, and then I just got hit by like 2 people, then the boss shows up, and I'm just like, oh my god!
Yeah, let's not.
Okay, I gotta run to this help. But you had so much, like, I don't know, agency, like, as you were playing.
Yeah, there's always something to look at from a different angle, and like, I mean, even going through and saying like, oh, we probably could have really guessed what each of the people were going to do. But sometimes it was like, oh, I didn't expect that person to move.
Yeah, I enjoy the fact of the enemy reaction where it's kind of like you don't know what enemies are going to do, but only one of them are going to do something.
Yeah,
and
then every single one.
Yeah, not every single one. And so when the enemy goes, which for the most part it was pretty much us, them, us. Very rarely was it ever them before, and never, as far as I remember, was it ever both of us. And
and then them.
They always kind of broke it up. And then at the end of the turn, all of the remaining enemies get to go in the order. So you know exactly what they're going to do at the end of the round, just the randomness of like, well, we don't really know who's acting. I enjoy that. That's an element of tension and strategy because you sit here and you're like, okay, if this enemy goes, that will be bad. So we got to see what our rolled. Oh, if it's the face spiders that are going to go, we want to take care of them.
Yeah.
And sometimes they wouldn't. And it's like, whoo!
Thank God. I really enjoyed the different enemy styles.
There were a lot.
There's a lot of different ones.
Yeah.
Each one is kind of... I mean, they all kind of have, like, the same kind of, like, idea behind each. Like, all the reds kind of had that same idea a little bit. But, like, each one played differently.
Yeah, if they had, like, the same ability, like Frontliner, they had more health or they had more armor. But I think I've realized that I've come to enjoy combat like this when it's presented more of as a puzzle versus just hordes of enemies that we have to kill. If every scenario of this was kill all enemies as an objective, that would be so tedious. But in here, it's like, okay, here are the abilities that we have, or here are the enemies that we're up against. Who are going to be our biggest headaches? Like, which one was like my biggest? It's almost like every enemy was like a counter, or one enemy was our counter.
Yeah, there is a counter.
The counter for me was blockers. Yeah, like the people that prevented movement. It's like, shit, if he gets in my spot, or it's like, oh, I have a bunch of movement, I can run over there and deal with or activate that lever, and that blocker moved into my space.
Yeah,
shit, and now I have to deal with him.
But then that was the good about we can roll and then see, because then I can be like, oh no, I can take care of that guy for you.
Or if you go, if it's like, okay, no, let's have me go first, because then I can rush and we'll see what happens if I activate that. Then I go, and then the enemy reaction causes a blocker to get in my way. It's like, shit. And now I'm going first, so I have to deal with him, meaning I can't go.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that. And like the counters for you were the burrowers.
Oh yeah,
it's like,
at the very end, like I couldn't
have to be in their space.
The skeletons were just an absolute nightmare every time. The people with resurrection.
Yeah,
those ones were always a nightmare.
They were so easy to kill, but
one shot, and like normally they dropped, but like still like they ran up on you a lot.
Yeah,
because there was always more.
Yeah, there were always more of them. So then it kind of became almost a meta factor. We needed that, which was perfect on you, because we could swarm them into one spot, drop them all, and have you just stand there because you have range.
Yep.
I don't even remember how we got that.
It was in one of the chests. Like,
is it a chest we opened?
Yeah,
okay.
It was the one chest I opened.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, it was when we first fought all the zombies, and I think like the second or third episode, and we got them all stacked up in the same spot because they all rushed us.
That's right.
And we're like, how the fuck do we deal with these things? And then we got the chest, and we're like, that's it.
And even then, like that would seem like it's obnoxious, but the fact that it's like, oh well, they have slow, So
you can run past.
Yeah, we get to run past them, and when we exit, it's like, okay, we don't have to deal with them. So let's focus on the ones that don't have slow, so we kill them.
Yeah.
And then just avoid all the swarms of bones.
I do wish in between each like combat scenario there was more of like a almost like a mini rest kind of thing, where you can actually go through and be like, okay, hey, let's stop for a moment. We can in D&D, you can go through and take a short rest.
Yeah,
kind of like that, so we can at least gain back either a health or a stamina, like one or the other.
What's the food is?
I know, but like what I'm saying is because then we can also stop and move our items around to each other.
Oh yeah, like a trade.
Yeah, be able to actually trade stuff around, hand stuff off.
Yeah, it seemed pretty loose. Like I don't specifically remember if you couldn't do that outside of a rest scene. Because I know when it says you're not in combat, so the only thing you can't do is you can't eat while you're in combat.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I guess once the combat scene is over, then we can just do that.
Well, because then if you so getting into the main ending area when we had to jump through the sarcophagus, like there was no like scene-wise, there was no point in between. We literally fell from one scene to another.
Yeah.
We literally fell through the floor.
Thematically, it's like there's no chance we have,
Yeah.
but it's like, I guess technically, it's like, oh shit, as we're falling, we're eating.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I agree. I think my overall, like, so if I have any complaints, my overall major complaint is I think the story is kind of whatever.
The story wasn't like anything super great, but it wasn't like, oh, it was so boring.
Yeah, like it was very like almost young adult, like very tame.
Mm-hmm.
Like we at least knew who our allies were. Like they didn't just bombard.
Yeah.
Now the names of a lot of places, it's like this means nothing to me.
No.
But like we knew who our allies were. We knew who our main enemies were, and they had, I guess. They didn't really have a whole personality to them. Like, I'm not sitting there, I'm not, tear jerking over,
No.
over anything that happens in the story.
Us killing, what's his name now?
Darylos,
yeah. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was weird.
Yeah, which, I mean, again, is nothing horrible. Like, again, the story is so whatever, but it's like, at least it wasn't so, like, trying to be deep. Mm-hmm. That you're just weirdly overwhelmed, or you're just like whatever. Just because some games will just really make you want to care, and it's like, God, you tried so hard, and I just don't give a shit.
So like one of the things that is the map size. So like this one's a smaller one, but we had some of them that we had to go through and rearrange and push stuff out of the way because they got so long. So like if we didn't have a massive table like this to do it all, like you would have to have other tables set up in different areas to go through and hold all the extra stuff on the sides and
pretty much
whatnot.
Which I mean, luckily I do have a table that is pretty much designed for any game I want to play. Like I have the capability to organize out all these chips so that when I am setting it up, it's like, okay, cool, I can grab them real quick, because the way it originally did it was becoming very annoying.
Oh yeah, especially when you're trying to find each and every single thing.
Exactly. But I mean, I know on the inside of this they have like, so if you have this next to it, you can be like, oh, this is where those enemies are, and it shows the front and back.
But I mean, if you put them in the wrong spot, then you're
right. You have to meticulously remember where to put them in that order. But so that was easier for me. I had all the tiles set out by their shape, so I did the best I could to try and organize. But yes, if you don't have I'm
thinking about playing on my kitchen table. Like, it's nowhere near going to be able to do
exactly, especially if you have like 4 players.
Oh yeah, it would have been a lot more.
It's just not happening, which is kind of a shame because this game is a small footprint, like overall game. Like everything fits in one box, which is so nice, especially with the expansion. It's like, oh yeah, it's organized and fit in one box, so you think you're going to have room. But then they just really sprawl out this map tile for really no reason.
I mean, which I love the map tile. Like, I love the idea of the map and the multiple different ways to go through.
Yeah.
Makes everything a little bit different.
Yeah, I agree. Because I do so many campaign games, and this one was just such a breath of fresh air to be able to come back like a month later and be like, I remember how to play. It's so nice. I remember what I'm doing. I don't feel like I have to live in the rule book again.
I like that since, we month in between each shooting thing, we have a stack that literally shows us like what we did each time.
That was like, who was that character again? Oh, there's Sabria. That's who she is. This is such a cool idea, and I wish more games did this, of kind of a journey of your campaign. Mm-hmm. To be like, these are the decisions we made, because bringing that up, these are the story cards that we didn't take.
That's almost the same amount.
It's about half. So I am, even though I wasn't like super enamored with the story, it's good enough that I would be happily played again. And I really want to know how, like the different decisions.
Different decisions. I want to know how different characters react, because there's a few things that like were specific to my character.
Yeah.
There's some things that are specific to your character.
Yeah, it seemed like everyone got their own personal story.
Yeah,
their own personal
side quest.
Yeah, the side quests were fun.
Yeah, each side quest,
Like-
none of them were over the top. Like, oh my god, this is dragging on.
Yeah.
It did it short, and it was done.
You also felt a sense of progression. Because it's like we finished the entire campaign in 3 sessions. Because when
Yeah.
I do campaign games, it's typically book out a day, and that's the game we're playing all day. And here, like, there's another game I'm doing, Aeon Trespass Odyssey, that is fantastic, but I'm like, we're still in Act, what are they called? They're called, I want to say Act, but it's, I guess, Act 1. And I'm like, I don't know when this is ending. Like, it feels like we're at the end, but it's still going on. And here, it was like, oh, nice, we have a combat rest, combat rest, combat boss, done. Like,
Yeah, it actually.
that's
laid it
Act
out.
1. It laid it all out, so we knew exactly what we were getting into. Each mission was at most an hour.
Yeah.
So everything was just so manageable, again, without watering it down. Like, yeah, there were a few ones by the end of the round that it's like, there's really nothing they can do. We beat all the objectives. We're done. But we have to finish out all the rounds. But man, it was just so refreshing to be able to feel like we were getting an epic campaign, and without having it be a 70-page rulebook.
Yeah. And if you really want to break it down, like, if we went through and we were like, okay, we're going to hang out for 2 days, we easily could have played through this entire thing in a span of 18 hours. Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been crazy. Like, Grant, I don't want to sit in one spot for 18 hours, but like,
Right.
I'm saying, like, you can sit down in a weekend and play this entire game with someone.
Yeah, if you kept this set up, you could just sit there and be like, okay, we're going to do a mission a day. And you're done. Like, it's not this overwhelming experience to go through this campaign. And again, you feel like, at least, well, like I said, the story wasn't like, wow, I'm really invested. But at least you felt like your decisions mattered.
Oh, yeah, they definitely matter.
Which in a game that they say, hey, it's a story-driven, co-op game, like, at least if you feel like your decisions are impacting the story, then that's all you can ask for. Even if they don't. Like, it's like, if we played it again and we chose a different outcome and it's like let's say the dumpster girl,
Yeah.
if she was like, hey, go get this artifact, and like, let's say we said no, like, let's say in Act 3, that item still comes back around to us, it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, whatever,
Yeah.
But I'm hoping the game doesn't do that. I'm hoping if we didn't take that mission to go get that artifact, what would have happened? By the end of Act 3, if we didn't have that
That's
item
true.
to destroy
everything.
the Atik, it's like, okay, well then,
How would we have done it?
yeah.
Would we
Like-
have had to done an extra? I mean, there's a whole boss we didn't use. So, like,
Yeah, which, speaking of which, I can grab that, oh no, there were only 3. But I wonder if that's the boss for the expansion.
oh, okay.
Because I was like, well, I have 4 miniatures.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because that's what I was basing it off of, was...
Oh,
the,
cool.
So speaking of which, bosses. What do you think of the bosses?
I think they're really great. Each one of them had their own separate... I think the first boss was a little lackluster, because all it did was run away.
Yeah, he
so,
summoned thorns. I was like, oh, please.
yeah,
sorry.
very lackluster.
Yeah, the Ukani mage, Olkani,
Then the dragon,
the hybrid dragon, yeah.
he's really cool, but he just dive bombed us and was like very aggressive, like, I'm gonna stay in your face. Which
Yeah.
For us, we just dropped him.
It's like,
within
oh,
that turn.
thank you. Yeah, because we were trying to figure out how to get to him.
Yeah, and he just came to us, and we're like, oh, there we go.
Yeah.
The last one.
That looks like someone's a little
Yeah.
lost.
The last one with the demon, until we got rid of the face biter, he was teleporting around, hitting us, and then leaving.
Yeah.
So like, we actually had to get close to him.
Yeah, I went down.
Yeah.
That was the only time in the entire campaign that we had someone go down, which would have been a corruption, which didn't matter by the end of the campaign.
Yeah.
Which one was your favorite?
This one.
Yeah, he was my favorite as well, but he does something that bugs me in the sense of it's no different than flipping a card. It's just like the card of like whoever went first takes 2 damage.
Yeah. That's a little different. Like, why?
Like, we had seen no other bosses do that. There was always a condition that had to be made or something that they were doing. It wasn't just, he stands there and I just take 2 damage. Like, that's huge. That's a fourth or a third of my health.
That's a big one.
And for me, I was getting my ass beat, and it's like, really?
If it also hit through all of your armor and blocks.
Yeah, like, I meticulously at the very end moved in and set up some blocks, and it's like, nope, lethal, you can't be blocked, and you just take 3 damage. It's like, alright. Like, that's just stupid. But the way he worked with the face spiders of them taking damage for him.
I like that his like, aura around him like caused damage to everyone, not just us, also the other
like
enemies in the area.
The chain lightning and all that was very nice. One thing this game does that not many do, I love the addition of weak spots.
Weak spots is pretty cool.
Like, that's such a cool idea.
That is a video game like base whenever you're fighting like
monsters. Like Monster Hunter. Oh, we broke the wing. Yes, now it can't fly away.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a cool little it's like, do we try and just brute force take it down, or is going after the weak spot going to make it easier now for us to kill? Like, how do we utilize our dice in such a way? You just, that risk reward.
Yeah.
Do we take the extra time to damage the weak spot? And in this case, with the Fiend, it was like, okay, all face spiders are gone and remove half its armor. Oh, thank God.
Yeah, right.
Because when I went down, it's like, shit, now it's just going to focus fire at you if he still had 8 health,
Yeah, if he still was like at full health, that would have sucked.
One thing that is kind of shitty about the bosses is you never really get to learn like a pattern. So you can't ever really prepare for what they're doing. Not even a little, because it's like, well, they do a reaction and they do an action at the end of the round, but it's dependent on where you are, 0, 1, or 2 spaces. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, is this enemy better to fight up close? Is it better to fight far away? Okay, if you're more than 2 spaces away, he seems to teleport straight to you. But if you're up on him, he does a lethal attack. Yeah. So it's like, shit, what's the best range to be at? And we never really get to go through a cycle to understand how the bosses work.
I get that. Like in Legends of Zelda games, like they're always that like 1, 2, 3 he stops.
Right.
1, 2, 3 he stops.
Or Dark Souls or any of the Souls game
yeah.
where it's like, okay, I see this attack, it has a telegraphed attack, I can dodge it. Obviously you can't do a 1-to-1 from a video game to a board game, but in like other boss fights where they have a deck and it's like, they have like 10 cards and now the 10 cards are over and they flip the deck or something. It's like, I remember what the first one was. We can plan for that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Here, they don't. So it's just kind of like the bosses, you just go for the weak spot and hope that you can outlast their damage.
But, I mean, and honestly, like, that's a more realistic thing. Like, it always changing depending on, what's going on.
And it doesn't, it really doesn't bother me that much because it's not super long. The boss fights are not drawn out.
Oh, no. I think this boss fight took us 15 minutes, if that.
Pretty much. Like, they're, funny enough, they're relatively weak when you think of a boss, because it's like, once their armor's gone, it's like, alright, it has 4 health left.
Yeah.
Which, again, is this game simplifying things down. It's not, it's boss time. Like, I kid you not. In another campaign game, there is a dual fight where it's a worm and a girl, and it is 800 health. And boss fights in that game are so fucking trash that I despise when they show up. And you do, it's not like you hit for 3 and 4. You do 20, 30 damage, or you can if you roll well. But it's still like, okay, dealt 20 damage, 800, there's still 800 health, and it's awful. So I love that this is like still tense, and the boss feels like, man, fuck, it hit me for 3? Jeez, like I'm about to die. So they lowered the numbers. It's kind of like going from Yu-Gi-Oh to Magic.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like Yu-Gi-Oh was like, I do 3,000 attack. It's like, why not just be 3?
Yeah, why not be 3?
Like, it doesn't need to be 3,000.
I get that.
But overall, each of the bosses was different. Like, they played different. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed them. They felt like they were getting more and more, like, from the mage to the dragon to the fiend, it was like, okay, I feel the stakes are higher. Other than that, like, I really don't have many.
I don't have any complaints.
Many
really.
like overall negatives.
I mean, granted.
Oh, I was gonna. Actually, there was one. It's not necessarily a negative because everything felt more of like a puzzle. But did you feel like this was too easy?
I do feel like it was a little too easy.
And I can't remember if there was a difficulty in the app.
Well, so like on the back of the bosses, they have one that's like a little weaker, and then you flip it over, and there's one that's a little bit bigger.
Player count.
This is the player count.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe it would have been harder if there was 4 of us. But at the same time, there's 4 of us, so there might have been a lot less.
4 of us with 6 whatever, 6 6 skills or different types of dice and like.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Would the money also have scaled as well, or we would have stayed with the same amount of money?
I don't know, actually. Because I don't know if the map tiles and the stuff that's put on there is different based off number of enemies. I would fucking hope so.
I would too, because imagine having 18 gold for all of us need to get a new upgrade, and it's only like, 2 of us can do it now.
It would be annoying if it was like rest time. Okay, we have 18 gold. Only 2 of us out of the 4
are allowed to do something.
Or can get something. We only have 5 rest scenes this whole campaign. And not even that. Just from if we had 4 players, it's like you and I were able to manage pretty much every enemy on the map. If there were 4 of us, it's just like okay. And it could be the cards it was telling us to make. To grab for the enemies could have been for the 2 players.
That's true. There could have been other ones.
I don't know if there was like, hey, this is card 1 or 350 is the 2-player swordsman. Yeah. Maybe it's like, hey, in the 4-player game, it's 3-player. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know though. That would be my assumption. Because, I have 2 loads.
Or instead of saying, hey, there's 3 of them, there's actually 6 of them.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, yeah, because it does tell us to, like, what heroes are in the app. Like, you have to tell so they can give us the correct story stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. I don't want to create another campaign because I don't know how to remove them. Yeah, because if I click new, like, load campaign, it doesn't let me delete a campaign. But I mean, even then, like, even though we never lost, never had to take an extra round, I still felt like it was inappropriate. It wasn't brutally difficult just for the sake of being difficult, but I never felt like I was just like, whatever, killed everything. I still felt like it mattered what I rolled. We like had to make meticulous decisions to go heal at a fountain or go get a chest, and I was invested every single mission. So even if we win every single one, if I feel like I'm still putting brain power behind it and having fun, that's all that matters to me. I don't need my boss fights or my missions to be brutally difficult and sitting here like,
oh, how are we going to do this? Like,
the only way we win is if I roll a sword. I didn't roll a sword. Fuck, that's 3 hours down the drain, Which, even if we had ever lost, I would have just been like, okay, we press forward. But what's great about this game is very few missions were like, you have to win.
It was pretty much only this last, like, third act almost. I was like, you have to make it past this.
There was like one in Act 2 where we had to get into the coot, and it's like, you have to win. But for the most part, it's like, if you fail, it trucks on.
So I'm curious, like, in this one here, it's like, maybe not this scene, but like the last scene, it's like, hey, if you fail to move forward, do you just go back, heal up, and come back? Or, that's the thing. I'm curious, like, what actually happened.
To me, a fail-forward system is the narrative presses on, and you just live with the consequences. If it was like, oh, you heal, and then you just do it again, that's not a fail-forward system. I think for the ones that are like, you have to win this combat scene, that's what you have to do. You just kind of, like, reset. But for, like, the ones like... Because this one didn't say we had to win. If we had lost, it would have been a different outcome.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. I very much enjoy those. Even though I like to win, it's like, fuck, that sucks. Okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm curious to know like what actually
And
would happen.
hopefully it's not a situation where it's like you keep losing. Where it's like, oh, we lost one mission, now we don't have any money and we have no food, so we can't buy any
Yeah, we're
upgrades.
gonna
So now we're just gonna
losing.
keep losing. Yeah, I hope that's not the case. So they've already announced a new expansion that'll be going on Kickstarter. I'm very excited. I was really hoping they were going to keep supporting it. We have the Clash of the Immortals campaign, which tells us that we do regular setup, and then it kind of like quick sets us up. At the start of the campaign, instead of taking their 2 starting skills, each hero combines both level 1 and 2 into one deck and buys up to 13 gold worth of skills. Any remaining gold can be spent on food or kept in the party bag. So it kind of accelerates us into setup. And then
That's pretty cool.
And then it has... the Clash of the Immortals expansion is more challenging than the base game. We strongly recommend that you play the base game, at least most of it, before you play this expansion. While in the
At
base
least
game,
most of it.
right? Well, in the base game campaign, the narrative adapts to combat successes and failures, allowing you to continue down a different path if you fail a combat scene. In Clash of the Immortals, there are several combat scenes which need to be completed successfully in order to progress in the campaign. If these types of combat scenes are failed, players can retry them by spending one of their 2 available fate tokens.
Okay.
If no fate tokens are available, the campaign is lost and you need to start from the beginning.
Wow.
And brings in the Enchantress, who... she's so hot.
Oh, God.
I'm just going to be gooning the whole time. Yeah, it looks like it adds more new enemy abilities, and the fate tokens, and mounted enemies.
And one new...
And the Enchantress, one new hero. So... I'm very excited to
I am
jump
too,
into that.
especially if they say it's a little harder.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious.
Um,
Ooh, mounted enemies though. That sounds pretty cool.
yeah, because one of the enemies that is new is a jaguar.
Jaguar.
Yeah, he got a jaguar.
Yeah, Jaguar.
Who was that guy? The guy who had the pet tiger?
Oh,
What's his name?
Joe Exotic?
Joe Exotic. I was about to say, what's his name? Tiger Dave?
Tiger Dave! He sounds like just your normal dude down the road. Hey, you ever seen Tiger Dave walking his lion down the street?
It's that guy at the small town that everyone knows.
Yeah.
Just that crazy guy that everyone just kind of accepts.
There was a guy in Miami that actually did that.
He had a tiger?
Yeah, when I
Dave?
lived, he had a tiger. That's all I know. But like, he's out in the middle of like a field,
Yeah.
like where his house is, and there's just this massive like 3-story like pen, and just a tiger in there, and he would go through and walk around with it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, yep, that's Tiger Dave right there. Yeah, so I highly recommend this. I think it's a fantastic game. Well, there's...
One of those are probably the...
I think it is one of the... probably the one boss, because I imagine that the expansion isn't that long. Okay, well, so what would you give Fateforge Chronicles of Kaan on a scale of 1 to 10?
1 to 10? I give it a solid 8.5.
8.5, nice. I'm going to give it a 9.
9?
I was thinking 9.5, but I want to reserve a slightly higher score for a repeat playthrough. Like, I want to know how expansive the decisions are, how many endings there are would be nice. And I think also, I mean, again, this is a campaign or a game that you could just kind of easily just reset, start over, and just be like, oh, you know what? I want to go through the story with this character. I'm going to go through with the tank.
Yeah.
Because even if you do the same missions, the puzzle's going to be different because you have a different character who's going to have to handle those in a different way. Even if it's the same type of dice, it's like, well, I was only able to do as much as I wanted because of my class that I built. So approaching each scenario with a different character is going to be a different strategy.
If you ever go through and redo an entire playthrough again of the core game, I definitely recommend us putting 2 like adding one or two, like the 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, like play with. I completely agree. Like I want to see how it adapts to more players. The reason why I didn't do that for this campaign is that it requires more people to commit to try and get for a session. But I wouldn't record another playthrough, so it'd be a lot easier to just be like, oh, we can play this wherever.
I would say, or if they ever when they put out the newest one, do a short like one with that way.
Yeah, that's true. Because I don't know how big that's going to be for that, but
or if it's a big enough thing, I'll come back on Raid again. We'll both run 2 characters.
Oh yeah, you could do that.
Do that.
The characters are in depth enough that you could still play them, but not so in depth. You kind of have to be like, I can only focus on this character. So that's our thoughts on Fateforge Chronicles of Kaan. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.